him trying to get pissy with me. I took him as he's trying to get across that he's delivering the message for the universe and I ain't paying attention. So I go down. So we went through all that. And then some told me back away from him for a minute. We went through the whole thing with the Steam card that I went over the other day. Right? And then here it is. He telling me about the money he gonna terminate. Now he's showing me all this money that's supposed to be mine. And he can't take $700 out of there and get a fucking money order to pay for me to get my money if he's sending it in cash like he said. I'm that goddamn dumb. But he don't know that while he's trying to use evil against me, I'm using it even for him to have an opportunity to become something greater than he was. I'm just saying. Now, look, getting pissy again. Get the card at the store. So then finally, this is what made me go along with it. At 11:55 a.m. Look at that shit there. Now, whatever this say next, I gotta pay attention. Hello. Hell is low, motherfucker, and you are a devil. That is confirmed right there when you said that. Because you got two masters telling me you the devil. So if you the devil, you come to do me harm. And she said that she'll make my enemies my footstool. So I got to step on you in some kind of way. So at 12:10, right? 12:10, he won't know what's going on. 12:30, right? Now look, remember. Now when my mama used to play the numbers, she used to say, always play the other end, baby. If it's 121, the other end to the 121 is the 212. Now remember, so now this got my attention on the other end. That's the mirror effect as well. He want to know what's going on. So now, I was gone in the process of actually getting it. Now look at the count. 1, 2, 3. Make the transaction. Unveil the A-tone. Alpha standing on the crescent. Handle that. Mama telling me to handle that. Right, he telling me to scratch it and now look, that ain't enough. He want more. That's when I get this. Right, I'm so busy. I'm on autopilot making these transactions. You can't make this shit up. I don't know this dude, and he said, "Look, the lion is right there." I'm just following the signs, because they told me that if I could read the signs and I know the times, I would know what the fucking agenda was. Put the family back together. I just did that. You seen my family crest. I identify every motherfucker involved in that. Every motherfucker involved in that. Now, when Portia gave me a knock earlier today that was very significant. Now, Portia, I want, if you watching, sweetie, I need you to share this, what I'm about to show them, because everything I said to y'all about Ta'ert, the 13th position of the zodiac, being the womb of the great mother, it's all of that is in this video that I'm about to put up. I'm going to play some of it. I don't know how long I'm going to let it play because there's so much of it that's telling y'all what I already said. But I really want y'all to pay attention to what he's saying about the name of the queen and how Neith, or the different variants in the pronunciations and how it changed over time and how we got to that. Oh, I know what I was supposed to show y'all. Today, Yana had on a dress that had the Vesica Pisces. They had a red rose and a blue rose in it. Now, fallen angels end up going. So once we start matriculating north back into Europe, yep, Zumbe. Now, when you look that up, you're going to find that it means the same thing as the Sanskrit word avatar in English. That's where your word zombie come from. When they're calling you the walking dead, you the walking dead because your God form is asleep within you. And that's why they say it's in your sacrum. And you got to cross the burning sands. Or you have to cross the emerald the ruby red fluorescent. What's the ruby red fluorescent is the base chakra. It's the red chakra. It's where all of your energy gets trapped. We don't get too much into that, but we're trying to find out how to locate the gods on earth. Now, some people are born with natural psychic ability. They the gods on earth. Only problem is they get indoctrinated, and the indoctrination work the same way as wrapping them up with rope from head to toe. All of your psychic abilities is trapped within you, and you can't release it because of your belief system. Your belief system is incompatible with who and what you are. You got sacred sex and you got animal sex. All sex ain't the same. One person can have animal sex while the other person having sacred sex. But the one having sacred sex gonna change the one having animal sex. They can't stay in that animal state but for a few minutes. That's why men have premature ejaculations, because they have an animal sex. You can't have a premature ejaculation if you having divine sex, if you having God's sex. It's not possible, because you can't raise the energy in a 3-minute ejaculation. The energy won't raise. There's a lot of techniques. I'm not going to go on over them here, because this is about identifying the fallen ones and what happened to them and where they at. Okay, so now you've seen them in Genesis 6, right? When they married the daughters of men. When you get to Psalms 82, it gives you a whole discourse about the royal family being gods in flesh and falling like the princes and dying like men. It's telling you about your reincarnation cycle, or we can walk in too. If you want to know about walk-ins, the book is by Ruth Montgomery, and I think it's called Strangers Among Us. And it talk about the walk-ins in detail, and there's not a whole lot of people that can understand it. Not necessarily. Your pineal gland can be calcified and you can still have your psychic abilities intact. It's just that it'll be more difficult or restricted in how much of it you assimilate. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. You have a child born that can see stuff naturally. And over the years, his pineal gland start to calcify the same as regular. But then something happens, but he can still see, but it's calcified. Now, the pineal gland in and of itself is not the only part of the awakening process. When they focus on the pineal gland, they are talking specifically about the third eye alone. They're not talking about the third eye and the ascension. They're just talking about seeing clairvoyantly when they're talking about the DMT in the pineal gland. You have a bigger portion of the brain called anterior gyrus that is your direct hotspot to source, meaning that it's the high-speed internet version of talking to God, and it's go through your anterior gyrus. It's about a spot about that big, probably about the size of a small plum in the brain on the right hemisphere. When God try to talk to you or give you information, yeah, I ain't really too much, I could do this thing celibate, but when you be trying to heal people, they still think you under the curse. They think you on some sex shit, and they tend to look at it from a slanted view. And the gods are more likely to be falsely accused of crimes. They more likely to be arrested on trumped up charges, moved from positions of power. They know who we all are. It can't be a secret if the plan is already laid. Now, if the plan is already laid, there has to be an end to it. It's an end game. This is the end game I'm giving y'all, because y'all have to know what the punishment was. So, black people kicking and screaming about how bad white people been treating them for 400 years. I got some real bad news for black people. You're not punished for your sins. You punished by your sins. The dirt you did is the dirt you getting back. But here's the kicker. The volume been turned down on your discrimination because you couldn't have handled the shit that them people went through. That's why you ain't want to touch them. That's not right. You mad now because you ain't allowed to have shit. You ain't allowed to do shit, be shit, and become shit. For 400 years, you've been going through this demeaning position in the global society. How did you get here? How the fuck did you get here? Why are you here? And if you the baddest motherfuckers ever bred on this planet, why you at the bottom of the goddamn barrel, and how did you get there? You don't know none of the answers to that shit. Then you can stop crying about what the white man doing to you and look at the shit for what it is. The white man ain't doing nothing to you. What the fuck are we doing to him? Using him for a weapon against each other. That's what we doing to him. White supremacy wasn't written by white people. I hate to be the one to disappoint y'all, but I don't give a fuck. I'm going to tell it like it is. You just going to have to be disappointed. All of the social issues that we complain about are part of the fucking punishment for doing the dirt we did. Or the dirt we let them do, I should say, because we ain't the ones did it. The invaders did the dirt, and we stood by. We didn't do what a guardian is supposed to do. When you babysitting and you see the kids about to fuck some shit up, you supposed to stop them. We ain't stop them. And y'all want to know why we had to pay for the shit. Well, we all didn't. Only one of us was willing to pay for it in full with his own motherfucking shit. One motherfucker. Because mama say you can't just throw people away like trash. And that's exactly what Inky did. Following his brother's orders because he was outranked. They threw them people away. In Europe, in Ea's wrote. Ea is Inky. Ea is Inky. When they say they threw him away in Europe, they ain't lying. And that's why Ivan Van Sertima had to go and find African presidents early Europe. Because it wasn't no Europeans before 10,000 years ago. Wasn't none. When you see them talking about Cro-Magnons, Australopithecus, and Neanderthals, them was niggas. That's what they call us today. Them was niggas. Them was thugs. Them was us. Wasn't no pale-skinned European. So what did we do? What was the cleanup? What was the remedy? In order for everybody to be on an equal playing field, on the same level, first of all, them people needed to be able to rule an empire. They came from being perpetual servants. It's in your books. It ain't no secret. It's in all your books. Now you want to bitch, cry, moan, kick and scream about injustice and inequality when you created this shit. If you didn't create it, you stood by and let it happen. And mama said, well, baby, the sealer is as good as the stiller. That's right. That's right, Portia. You know the Thuggy was Queen Kylie's way of keeping the balance of wealth. With her Robin Hoods. With her Robin Hoods. They was robbing the hood. Anyway, so when we was expecting that they would clean that shit up, and they had no plan for it. Somebody had to clean that shit up. Somebody had to clean up the dirt they dropped over there. So when the queen gave the order, because she did give the order, it wouldn't have never happened. What they call your 200 fallen didn't fall. They came to clean up the shit. Clean up that genetic mess. They had to answer the grievance to the God that said we have no right to a sin and no right to eternal life. All we do is work, die, and that's the end of us. What about us? It's in there. Wisdom of Solomon. Look it up. Don't believe me. Go check that shit out. Stop letting these motherfuckers trick y'all. Y'all know what the hell going on in the world. So if they don't got a right to a sin. Now remember in Genesis, they didn't get kicked out for assimilating the knowledge, good and evil. They got kicked out to prevent the consumption of the tree of life. Well, where is this tree? How big is it? How tall is it? How deep do the roots go? Is it on the earth or is it in the astral? Is it on another planet? Is it on a ship? Is it a bonsai tree? Is it held in somebody's personal motherfucking garden? Where is this goddamn tree of life? It's in you. See, your chakras was blocked. As a European, they had 5 of 7 chakras blocked. They only had sacral chakra and second chakra, which is between the pelvic bone and the navel. And then once they was able to assimilate that knowledge, there was a barrier put in play. They put a parasite that can be passed on genetically in the DNA into the central nervous system. And it causes the Stephen Hawking effect. It causes, what's that shit called? Huntington's Graves disease. It causes the brain to die at a rapid rate. But it only affects the left hemisphere, and it causes them to start having a palsy and the atrophy because there's too much information the brain can't fire. Now, if you want to know a little more about it, and you can understand it a little better, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has a debate with a eugenicist from the 70s. And in that debate, she is describing the Huntington's Grave disease and its effect. And that this was a major issue with eugenics and the eugenics philosophy. Now, the eugenics philosophy is exactly the opposite of what they're telling you it is. So the eugenics philosophy is the cleaning up the genes so that the undesirables doesn't reproduce. So what do they mean by the undesirables? You got to read the eugenics manifestos, they reports and their writings. Those who have birth defects was considered as the undesirables, that they didn't want to procreate. And the only way that this is possible on Earth with the genes on Earth. Now you got to keep in mind, we on Earth, so we're going to deal with it from an Earth angle. When you look at all of the DNA on Earth, the only DNA that can clean up the Huntington's Grave disease is Dogon DNA or Zulu DNA or one of the what they call sister tribes, because of something known as the healing factor or the recovery factor in the blood. What this does is it allows it to capture a birth defect in utero, basically wrap it up and spit it out before it can manifest in the child. But in order to maintain the status quo, they have to artificially create birth defects. Why do they have to artificially create birth defects? In order for eugenics to effectuate the needed cleanup of the genetic defect, in order for it to work, it has to be a system in play where it's a misdirection, or because just like no self-respecting African would date or sleep with Europeans before the cleanup started. Europeans didn't too much care about Africans either. It was a xenophobia, the fear of strangers, that is the reason the Europeans, they didn't trust nobody, because all they knew was deceit, treachery from people that don't look like them. So now when we talking about racism and political differences and divide and conquer, we got to trace this shit back to the source. If you look at it for what it is, there's nobody European that was smart enough to raise Plato and Socrates, to become a Plato and Socrates. They had to go to Africa. There was nobody in Europe capable enough to raise an Alexander as a leader, or a Napoleon. All these guys had to be taught by Africans. And it's not a secret. This is the kicker. It's not a secret. When you go find out the generals that Napoleon studied under, most of them was Africans. That was just only 200 years ago, 1800s. When you go and study who taught Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Leonardo, Da Vinci, they all learned from Egyptian priests. So who the fuck gave them the power to take over and subjugate what was supposed to be superior people? Now y'all talk about y'all gods, the black gods, y'all ain't doing no god shit. Now, when I say y'all not doing no god shit, y'all doing the same thing you've been doing ever since you've been oppressed, expecting the oppression to change. Gods don't operate like that. Gods don't operate like that. Y'all been doing the same thing, expecting a different result. It ain't working. That's not God shit. If you say you God, right? If you say you God, explain to me what's the difference between a God and a man. All right? Now, I want you to explain to me the difference. Show me what a God do. Show me a God. Show me a man. Explain to me the difference in the two, as Dr. Fuller would say. You can't tell me, look in the mirror and know I'm God. I can do that shit all day long. It's not going to affect any change. What's going to cause the changes we need in order to change the condition of the people? It's not hard. You ain't got to do no God shit. You could do some smart man shit to figure this shit out. It ain't even hard. It ain't even hard. First, you got to know that ain't no white people behind this oppression nowhere on earth. Nowhere on earth. No matter how powerful they look to you, white people ain't running this shit. I'm flat out tell you, the white man ain't behind this. History say it's not possible. Science say it's not possible. So I'm gonna have to roll with the history and science. Even the religions say it's not possible. White man ain't behind it, because when it started, he wasn't even here. You didn't even think about that part, did you? When it started, wasn't no white folks. When the dirt started, wasn't no white people. So how we gonna blame it all on the white man? When the dirt started, wasn't no white folks. Now, they've been deceiving us. Let me get to the final part of this, which is about the political prisoners. Because I think by now we ought to all know what happened to the gods that amalgamated with the humans, and how do we locate them. Is one of us ain't like none of the rest of us. One of us is the baddest motherfucker ever born. One of us. One of us. And it ain't gonna be no secret too much longer. So I sit back and I listen to the grievances. And one of the grievances is about what we call the Grail Kings. The Grail Kings being held without tribute, held without honor, and held without respect. And you want to know why. This is the grievance I'm getting. And the grievance concerns people like Jeff Ford, Imam Abu Jamal, Mumia Abu Jamal, Jeff Ford, Larry Hoover, Malachi York, Suge Knight, Big Meech. Anyway, so all of the grievances is the same. Is the leaders that we pick get took out the picture, and that the Hellenized leaders they want us to have get promoted. So this is the grievance. This is the remedy. The resolution for the grievance is the class action lawsuit of anybody with a case stemming from a drug conviction. And this is why. According to 42 United States Code 1983, the color of state law, or the color of law actually, 19 United States Code 242 and 18 United States Code 242. These are actionable offenses that the government can commit against a citizen by creating a condition where the citizen commits a crime, but they're actually acting as a de facto agent of the state. Anybody with a drug case in America need to be part of the class action. Anybody with a murder, robbery, home invasion, or anything stemming from a drug case need to be party to the class action. And this is why. When the government is the key organizer and conspirator in an ongoing criminal enterprise, and one of the citizens, don't matter the level, and one of the citizens are baited by the government to participate in the wrongdoing that the government is committing, then the person that the government is using to further its criminal act becomes qualified immune to the prosecution stemming from the act of government. Now, I gotta slow down here because this law stuff is kind of complicated. And it's kind of hard for people to understand, so I need y'all to pay attention. You have men like Demetrius Holloway, Big Meech, BMF, Larry Hoover, Jeff Ford, Harry O out in California, and Ricky Ross. All of these guys was classified as major narcotics distributors, and all of their crimes is related and interwoven with the industry of narcotics. And now we start getting into the what that got to do with anything part. That got to do with this. There's no way any one of the men that we just named, who we never left America, can get tons of cocaine, not a couple of ounces, not a couple of pounds, not a couple of grams, tons of cocaine in this country without assistance from the United States government. Now, the question becomes, is this a provable claim? Can this claim be proven that the government of the United States, the corporation known as the United States, operating out of Washington, D.C., being the chief perpetuators of the drug crime, can we prove this? Yeah, we can prove it. And once you prove that the government is the number one drug distributor in this country, at that point, you prove also, by proving that fact, you prove that everybody with a dope case are part of the government drug ring. In order to prove that, you have to do a couple of things. First, you have to show the government conspiracy. And now, conspiracy is a unique charge because some of the people in the conspiracy don't even need to know that they are in a conspiracy to be convicted of conspiracy. It's 5 elements to a conspiracy, which I'm not going to get into them now because I'm going to do a whole nother video on the law and political prisoners. Where I'm going to go more in detail. But anyway, so the government got caught. Yep, they got caught. The government at its highest levels got caught in the 80s. The government of the United States, operating out of Washington, D.C., the president, the vice president, and one of the joint chiefs of staff, Iran-Contra, they got caught. They wasn't just buying drugs from Central America, selling them here. They was buying guns from here, selling them here and abroad. Buying them from the military. They got caught. The Senate hearings is there. Now, I have to prove 2 things in order to prove what I just said. Were they doing it before Iran-Contra got exposed that can be traced? Number 1. Number 2, are they still doing the same shit? So let's look at it. In Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper produced some government documents that checked out to be valid. The government documents show that George Herbert Walker Bush was bringing in cocaine since the 60s, using oil tankers to jump shipments of narcotics from the islands in Central America all the way to the mainland because the oil rigs were not subject to search. So that means they've been doing it since the 60s at least. So now anybody who has a drug case before the 60s, we don't have to deal with them because they probably not living no way. Excuse me, I'm almost done. All right, so now let's just take it from 68. Let me say 68. In 1968, Larry Hoover was on the street, and he wasn't a drug dealer. Harry O was on the street, and he wasn't a drug dealer. Ricky Ross was on the street, and he wasn't a drug dealer. All of a sudden, drugs is coming over here, and these guys, and the government bringing it. Government bringing it. And these guys are automatically drug dealers now. Where they get the dope? Where they get the guns? Where these AK-47s coming from? Where these MAC-10s coming from? Where these Uzis and these Glocks coming from? Don't nobody in the hood make them. They got to get to it some kind of way. And it ain't that many good stealing Negroes in the hood that can go steal all them kind of guns and arm street gangs like they military militias. So let's analyze it. Where is they getting it from? The government. The government, the only one powerful enough to give them that many guns and that much power. So that gives them qualified immunity. We're going to push it a little further. Now that we know that they've been doing it since the 60s, they got caught in the 80s. Well, we in the 2000s now. These people still locked up. So what can we produce right now in real time to show that the government is still involved? Go to Afghanistan. Opium is used to make heroin. In the American military, special forces are working with the Afghanistan farmers to protect the opium fields that Afghanistan is shipping to America that's being made in the heroin. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. Now, how in the hell we supposed to allow people to stay locked up in prison doing the exact same thing their government doing? Doing the exact same thing the government doing. But you're going to leave them locked up. But Oliver North walked, George Herbert Walker Bush walked, Ronald Reagan walked. Now, if you don't see what this is, I don't know what to tell you. Now, a lot of this stuff is subject to scrutiny, but you can't dispute the facts. All you can do is either confirm them or reject them. But one thing about it is you will have to deal with it when they bring the class action correctly. Any drug-related crime since 68. We just go back to 68. Any drug-related crime, the problem is you can't distinguish from the ones who actually did have their own pipeline from the ones that the government had. And this is why. If you go down to Central America right now, Mexico, Guatemala, Panama, Colombia, any of those countries that they call cocaine trafficking countries, and you look at it for what it is, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, is protecting their dope. The DEA is protecting their dope. The DEA is protecting the dope in third world countries, and they say that it's maintain military and political stability in the region. Now, y'all need to pay attention. Why in the fuck they ain't worried about military and political stability in this country? Why they worried about it down there where they have to protect the dope? Because as long as they got enough money from the dope, they can pay who they want here. All these son bitches for sale. Senators, congressmen, mayors, governors, presidents, they all for sale. Because everything under the system that we under is commercial. Commercial means that it's about the money. So, if you look up, what's that? If you look up 27 CFR 7211, it'll tell you all crime is commercial. It's I'm gonna say it again. 27, which is CFR Code of Federal Regulations 72.11 tell you that everything, all law is commercial. Now, what do that mean? If it's commercial, it's for sale. Commercial is what Sears is. It's a commercial outlet. Commercial is what Kmart do. That's a commercial outlet. Kmart is what commercial is what Walmart do. So if all of the law is commercial, what is it telling you? It's for sale to the highest bidder. How do they sell law? They sell law by never letting you know they're selling it. It's a secret. It's a trick. It's a subject matter issue that has no bearing on the subject matter of the person. Now, I'm going to wrap this up here because I've been going for a minute and I done had to do about 4 or 5 videos just to get one video done. But all of those drug cases, that's the exit. If you can prove the government guilty, you can prove all of the people that's on the drug-related cases innocent. You can't create a crime as the government and hold the citizenry culpable for committing the same crime that you compelled them to commit. You can't do that. That's called entrapment, and it's also duress. You're putting them under duress. They have no choice. The living conditions you created mixed with the drugs you brought over here create the opportunity for them to escape the poverty, and they're going to take advantage of that. Ain't nobody no damn fool. If you can sell dope, I can too. If you're the government, if you're the president of the United States, if Donald Trump right now had a sack slinging out the back door of the White House, why I can't sling across the street from him? I'm just saying. It's the same fucking point. So, y'all can be deceived if y'all want to, but I had to answer as to what happened to the angels that fell or the guys that walked among the men, where they go. I went through it genetically, spiritually, energetically. I I touched on a little bit about the diet and about the corruption in the system and the breakdown in the system and how it affects us. If y'all really want to see some shit happen, share the shit out this video. Share the shit out of it. Because when the right people hear it, and they know that you got people sitting in prison about 1,000 that should be on the street, that didn't really do nothing wrong of their own accord, but they was compelled to commit a crime by their very own government who held them liable for the crime that the government committed. No. It's all in the books. 42 United States Code 1983, 19 United States Code 243, 18 United States Code 242. All laws commercial, 27 Code of Federal Regulations 7211. It's all in the books. Everybody know how to look up duress. Duress falls under this because they use duress and they use entrapment in order to lock everybody up that's on the dope case. Y'all need to watch out for this. I'm telling y'all what the issue is and what the remedy is. Because it don't make no difference for me to point the problem out if I don't give you a fucking solution. I'm just another motherfucker in the way. I ain't never going to be in nobody's way. I'm going to either find a way out or I'm going to tear this bitch down. That's the only two options I got. Find a way out or destruction. And it don't matter to me either way. I'm going to look through here in case somebody got some questions before I get off. And then we're going to see what we do, what it do from here. Hermetic law is the real law. Yep. Whoa. Yep. Walmart martial law. That's why they closing all them Walmarts down so they can turn them into prisons. Yeah, all this stuff is real life. It's right in our face, Chanel. Yeah, matter of fact, the contract holders' names are in the back of Black Law Dictionary. So if you want to know who we contracted to, that's holding the laws, that's holding us oppressed, it's in the back of the Law Dictionary where they're supposed to be the presidents, but it got all of the name of royalty in there. And I posted on here where one of the Moors was going through it. Yep. Chanel, they locked your baby daddy up just to be locking him up because they the ones committed the crime. But if you don't know how to fight it, you got to fight it as a class action at this point because it affects too many people for a person to use it alone because they'll shut the door on all of the rest of the people after the one case. See, they'll create what they call an ex post facto law to clean that shit up. And then the Constitution say that they're not supposed to create any ex post facto laws, but they do it all the time. You know, you'll commit something that they say is a crime, but there's no law in the books for it, and then they'll go put a law in the books and wait for you to do it again. Then they'll charge you with all of them. Conspiracy. Conspiracy is a way to get everybody involved caught up. Yep, still owned by the Queen. Nope. As of July the 4th, the contract was up. We no longer owned by the Queen. Everybody is under my jurisdiction. I'm the Crown Prince. We ain't under her rule no more, and they already know this. That's why they talk about the last president being Trump, the last pope being Francis, and the last Nation of Islam leader being Farrakhan. This is for a reason. So, with that, I don't see any questions that I need to answer. So if y'all got any questions, y'all inbox them. If y'all need me to speak somewhere, y'all just tell me the address and send me a ticket. I'll come. I'll talk to y'all later. Everybody stay on y'all toes. Don't fall for their shenanigans. And I'm going to keep exposing these bastards every chance I get. All right, one love. Poverty. Using inflation. It's a deception. It's a grand deception. Everything they doing is an underlying deception attached to it. And when you try to use their system to break from the deception, they have another piece of their system designed to funnel you back into the system.
So what do we do? So what do we
go back to our original ways?
How do we find out what our original ways are?
We got to remember that our tradition is oral tradition. The more of us to make an oral statement in the public domain declaring our organic nature, our organic connection to the land over here, the stronger our tribes become, because now we have the people waking up to the reality that everything that you do with paperwork is designed to trap you in a paper chain of adhesion contracts. What they call them take it or leave it contracts. Right? So you, in order to get gas to your house, you have to sign a contract. Right? And then they send you a bill. The bill is acknowledgement of the payment rendered. Dollar bill, gas bill. You can spend a dollar bill, you're supposed to be able to spend the gas bill on gas.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know how it worked because they never taught us. This is why Noble Drew Ali say learn civics. Because only in civics could you see the deception, because they use legalese to people who don't speak legalese. That's why ignorance of the law is no excuse. They use your ignorance for capital gain.
I guess it just seems to me that, you know, since we do still to this day have those Moors that look like us but we're not us, being disruptive, being what we call COINTELPRO and all that, they whoever they're working for, it is to keep us divided and not to bring us together. It just is a matter, and then you have that whole group that has no clue that the government is de facto. They don't know anything about being a Moor or anything else, an indigenous person, or, you know, or anything. That's where I think the greater majority falls in that. They don't know anything, and so they know the church, you know, they know this, that, and the third, but they don't know these things. And then the way to get that information out is controlled by the opposition. So it's very hard, even, you know, in platforms like this, sometimes to keep, you know, to get certain information out without it being, you know, something that is deemed, you know, a violation of whatever, when all you're really trying to do is bring the truth.
We have to stop worrying about trying to transgress their law, because the Supreme Court ruled that the indigenous people was perpetual enemies of the state and that they can treat them in whatever manner they treat an enemy of the state. That's already settled in the Supreme Court of the United States.
We are perpetual enemies of the state.
Yes.
So with that being said, then if you run up against a brick wall, unless the people begin to come together. And I'm always making appeals out there to listeners. I'm saying, if you work for some of these companies that, you know, you're creating, you've got what do you call it, like the internet not the content, but the platforms, you know, you got to have an engine, and you got to have why aren't we creating our own things, our own? I mean, I know our form of communication was telepathy and drums and the mouth.
We actually been trained, but you got to remember, any one of us that try to do something that big, if they had a sufficient amount of suspicion that would be successful in reaching the people, they did either two things: defamed them and locked them up, or murdered them outright.
Which is true. So what do we do? I mean, I don't keep saying that, because I mean, at the end of the day, what we need are solutions. We need solutions. I mean, everybody's throwing this, that, there, and that. You know, what
right.
do we do?
So the solution to the problem right now is awakening to the grassroots. This is where the issue is stuck at, in the grassroots. The leadership across the land is already unified. It's just that the people got to realize that this is about to happen so that it can happen. The people don't realize it yet.
Sharing this video as far as you can.
That's
other videos that you've done to get it out to for people to see it, and then start, you know, asking questions, and, you know, just having discussion groups with your, you know, meetings with your, you know, with your kinfolk, you know, things that you can do, even if it's a small group of 5 or 2, but start like the old each one teach one, each one reach one. We need to do something in order to get on one accord with this. And that to me seems like the issue. We gather together, but we're not assembled together. You know, in other words, to me, when I think of assembly, I think of a puzzle with pieces. You know, you could throw the 1,000 puzzle piece on the table, and it's gathered, but until it's assembled, you don't have the full picture.
Right.
And that's what we are. We're like 1,000 pieces, you know, millions of billions of pieces of puzzle pieces thrown on the table of life, but not assembled together. And that's the only way I see from my, you know, finite mind that we can even begin to tackle this monumental task of freeing ourselves from something that we've been entrained in for so long. I mean, folks are literally, you don't even know sometimes that you've been entrained and hypnotized. What did the Pope say? Give me the child for the, you know, first 7 years and I'll show you the man. Or they said even train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old he won't depart. And we got a lot of folks that have been entrained, and it's hard, if you will, to crack that nut. They're not letting any new info in.
Right, because they took sides with a doctrine that doesn't serve their interests, because the doctrine has something called a persuasive argument attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop arguing doctrine and just start asking for receipts first and foremost. That's why I put all those receipts. Like when you go down my page ain't regular. Them all receipts. Some of them you gotta be intuitive enough to read them like a tarot card, but some of them is an outright statement. Some of them is book references to tell you where to find certain stuff. Right? Mm-hmm. Even my videos is the receipt. When I'm telling you, look up the words I'm using. Look up, when I say look up fractional reserve banking, so you'll know what it is. Then you know how they're stealing your money. Right? Look up the difference in, you know, get you a Black's Law dictionary, and go in there and look at what the word used to be and what it is today. It's not the same.
Right.
When you can see the evolution of the terms change, then you can see the corralling of the mind. Right? Like today, we say more, it's a catch-all. Anybody that look like us is classified now as a Moor. Good Moor, dirty Moor don't matter. They still a Moor. But when you go back before 1492, ain't nobody over here called Moor.
Now, so we have to unlearn some stuff, and for a lot of folks, they were like, "Look, Dag, I just got out of being Negro and Black, and I just went to, and I thought Moor was the thing." Well, you know, we have to be open to change. You have to be open to progressive knowledge. And I mean, one thing about me is I've never been stuck anywhere that I couldn't get out of mentally. If you know, me being a pastor, you know, in ministry for 25 years and a pastor for 10 of those last 10, and then when Chu slapped me upside the head, I just like, oops, gotta leave that. I mean, I've never, you know, I'm not the kind, but not some folks are not that easily moved out of, you know, their entrainment and their indoctrination, and so it becomes difficult because, you know, in their minds what they're doing has helped them, but if they really looked at it critically, they're like it's like they're in a rut that they're just digging deeper. They really haven't going up, they haven't ascended, they're going down.
You remember, it's a chapter in the Circle 7 called Misery. It started out, weak and insufficient as thou art, O man, and good. There is one thing in which thou art obstinate and moveth not, and his name is misery. Because of the suffering, we latch on to the suffering. Because we are empathetic people, when we believe that something drastic has happened to our people, we're going to ride that suffering out. Right? Because that's the grievance.
Mm-hmm.
Is our people is got a very unique characteristic. I don't want to see you going through nothing I don't want to go through. And if I come across you dealing with something that I don't want to deal with, I'm going to do everything I can to enlighten you on how to change what you're going through so you can be in a less traumatic situation. Each one teach one. This is where it comes from. If I don't want you to go through nothing I don't want to, why would I inflict it upon you and force you to go through it? That's the enemy's perspective. That's what his agenda is. He's using your energy to harvest. He's putting you through the stuff he don't want to go through, and you so caught on the misery and the empathy of the misery that you attach to the suffering while he reaping the benefit.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, like I said, but at the end of the day, it's all about, how we can come together and stop fighting each other. And everyone has to ask him or herself, what is what is my motivation? Everybody wants, if we get great ideas, and I'm an idea factory. But one thing I come to realize is that even though I have a lot of what I think are damn good ideas, they're not all for me to to put into effect.
Execute.
They're
Right.
not. Yeah, I'm not supposed to execute them, but I am supposed to share them. Somebody else has to pick that one up. But if it's coming through me, I call myself the idea factory, then I should give it freely, because at the end of the day, it's going to be beneficial. So if somebody gets some kind of financial gain from it, fine. But larger, if it's helping us as a whole, then that's the important thing, knowing that we can't do everything. You sprinkle seeds out there, and, like I said, one plants, another, waters, and we used to say in church, and God gives the increase to it. But it's the same thing. You may not have your name on everything that is good that comes out of this, but at least you gave your positive energy to it, and it's going to benefit the whole. And I think some folks are afraid of not getting their just due, or their just, they want their 15 minutes
Listen,
of fame.
our culture teaches us this. Whatever you can do to contribute to the collective, if you do that, the collective will make sure you're taken care of, because it's a mutual exchange of benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that you do that only serves your own interest and has no benefit to anybody other than one person, the community never supports that.
No.
Right? So why do we buy music?
Why do we?
Music is our culture. It's a critical part of our culture. We can talk through the music what we can't say openly regular. Right? So you will produce a Tracy Chapman. You produce a Bob Marley. You produce a Sam Cooke. And you produce the OJs and the Temptations. And we know we got a message in the music. Somebody got to remind us it's a message in the music. Because when we can't talk politically in the realm of politics, when we can't talk because somebody got us stifled in politics. Politics is a well-controlled and well-organized scam.
But if you break that word down into the two words, it is poly, many, ticks, bloodsuckers. It's right what it says, just what it is.
And right there in the word.
It's right there.
And so just be your best self, and make your interests also serve the interests of the most people you can. Some people can only muster up enough inner light to serve 10 people in their lifetime. But those 10 people might go on to serve tens of thousands each because of that contribution. Because you did your part, you've affected tens of thousands just by teaching those 10. Right? Each one teach one, we all gonna reach something.
Right.
Right? So when we understand what's going on the land, the more of the mothers, really, it's more important that the mothers get this information than anybody else, because it's their shit. The sisters got what you call first right to the earth right, which is the earth-born birthright. Earth is a feminine planet, and it's supposed to be ruled under matriarchy. The mitochondrial in the woman is also found in the soil of the earth. Right? That's because the woman is tied to the earth through mitochondria, and she blesses the man to have mitochondrial as well. Right? And the love of the women ties into the love of the child's mother that's performing the function to make his mitochondria produce more output, which raises his consciousness to higher levels. This is what they call, what do they say, raise yourself to infinite wisdom. Right? That's what he's talking about. Make your service, make the mothers so proud that they all want their sons or their daughter to be like you. And when you get the respect of the mothers, you change the landscape. Just by them feeling in their heart that somebody came that can see the problem to get us out, changes the vibrational frequency, and then it make the bloodsuckers start running the other way because they can't tolerate love energy. They become violent, aggressive, and most of the time it be inflicted upon themselves.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's. It, yeah. I'm trying to keep myself. Like I said, my brain is racing and all. You always think, but I'm thinking back in terms of when you hear folks say, you chose to be here in this time.
Mm-hmm.
We make those determinations as to whether or not we're going to incarnate at a certain time to be in the earth realm, which is like the prison planet and the university all in one. So we chose to be here. So if we chose to be here, we knew or we felt that we could make a difference, whether it be in our suffering or in our joy, whatever success or lack thereof, that it was going to make a difference. Because who would pick something so horrible, if you will, as a time of what we've seen, unless we knew that the outcome was positive, that in the
Right.
end.
So just like when you're going out, your past life flashed before your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
When you coming in, your future life is laid out before your face. You would know how to navigate it better if they didn't shine them bright ass lights on you in the delivery room. Because you're supposed to birth a child in ambient light. This is why we need our doula centers back. Mm-hmm. They took all the doula centers and turned them into hospitality places. The places of hospitality to us used to be the whorehouse. So now we prostitute ourselves for medical research and don't even know it. That's why they always practicing, because they don't know what they're doing.
Wow. That's interesting.
That's why they so quick to snatch out uterus and chop off breasts. They call that desecration of the holy places. Each one of the women, when they self-realize, is a holy place. She is an entire temple dedicated to creation itself.
Churches are laid out as a woman's holy place, when you coming down the aisle or going into the, so yeah.
And Dr. Bean tell it like this. She said, heaven is between the legs of the black woman. That's what Dr. Bean tell you, because ain't nobody get in to earth without going through the portal of life.
Sure.
They can make many trans testicles as they want to. They can get them artificial everything. But when that womb of a natural born woman is going to naturally produce what they science is trying to reproduce.
Speaking of which, I just saw, thank you, Sister Fariel L. I know she's in the chat. She turned me on to yesterday to an season 10 of American Horror Story on Hulu. And so I looked at the last 4 episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I think I shared just a little teeny bit with you. But in that, since you mentioned that, in that they have gone